have you ever heard of emotional intelligence? If you haven't, emotional intelligence is this fancy kind of word that sounds good, that the Harvard Business Review has said is the #1 quality in all leadership. All leadership is about emotional intelligence. And one of the key things they found in a special edition in 2001, the Breakthrough Leadership, Harvard Business Review, great ideas, was the leader's mood determines the mood of everybody else in the organization. Now, when you get your recruits coming in, your mood determines what they're like. So if you're going to be enthusiastic and excited, then they're going to be sitting there going, oh, this is great. I don't know what I'm enthusiastic about, but it's great, whatever it is. And you know, it reminds me, when I was in Australia and my niece and nephew, whom I love, these are like my kids, right? I didn't have kids, but they're like my kids. And I couldn't love my own children more, I don't think. So my little niece is about 9. And it's her first gymnastics competition. What, was she 9? No, she was a bit young. She was like 7. Well, you know, at a 7-year-old gymnastics competition like a while ago, they don't do much. And so I'm sitting there, and my sister and I, in the past, haven't really gotten on terribly well, and she would never tell me when the kids were doing something. And so I found out by secret that this competition was on. So I drove up, and I'm really excited, and I'm sitting there, and my little niece sees me, and she goes, because she's sitting out there doing something, but I couldn't work out what it was other than sitting there. And I'm a very enthusiastic aunt, right? So, you know, she did one little thing where she stood up and jumped. That was about all she did. And I'm sitting there going, it's great, it's great, it's great, it's great. And you know, the best thing was, and seriously, I'm like this with them. The kids have grown used to it now. But then she wasn't so used to it. I saw her sitting there. She didn't know I could hear her. And she leans over to her little friend and she goes, she's not my mother. She said, she's only my aunt. And I thought that was wonderful, because then she went over to the parallel bars. Well, as far as I could tell, what they were doing on the parallel bars was to kind of jumping up, holding on, and then letting go. And you know, she did that very well. So she did it again, and I'm making myself powder sound. And letting my bracelet fall off because I was being a little bit enthusiastic. Anyway, so I'm, you know, shouting and clapping my hands, and she's dying again. But then I looked around and I saw this pit. And in this pit, there was all this foam. You know, there's foam balls and foam chunks and foam pieces. And I'm thinking, what's that? I've never seen a pit filled with foam before. And all of a sudden, this little kid went running up behind me and went, wham, splat, right into the foam pit. And I thought, that looks fun. And so I couldn't help myself. I dived into this pit of foam. It was the best thing. Have you ever done that? Oh, man, it is so much fun. Anyway, I'm jumping into this pit, and I'm trying to get out because I'm bigger than the kids, and my legs are going down between the foam, you know, and I can't get out, and I'm laughing. And all of a sudden, my little nephew, who was he must have been about 10 at the time, he's standing there with his back facing me, right? And he's going, Manda, and I'm in the foam pit, you know, going, what? And he looks down and he says, you can't do that. And I said, why? He says, because you're a grown-up. And I said, no, I'm not. And you know, that's all it took, because I gave him permission to do it. Next thing you know, he's running 100 miles going, blah, splat, this is great. He's hanging off a rope, jumping in. And then there were about 6 other kids doing it. All you have to be is enthusiastic. If you're enthusiastic about what you do, which you are while you're here, it's easy at conference to be enthusiastic, isn't it? You're all sitting there, whoa, we're going nuts, whoa, let's whoa. And it's easy to be enthusiastic. Then you get home. And it's like, whoa, the world. And you've got jobs, and you have husbands or partners, and you have children, and lunches to cut, and dinners to make, So that's the time you want to keep your enthusiasm going. You want to make sure that you remember everything from here and carry it with you, because how you feel determines how everybody else feels. And that brings me to another